This week on the latest episode of The Big Show, we celebrate the legacy of Black storytelling on screen with our countdown of the top 10 Black cinema adaptations. From A Raisin in the Sun to Malcolm X, The Color Purple to If Beale Street Could Talk, we'll explore how books and plays have shaped some of the most powerful moments in Black film history. Plus, we'll review Eden, Honey Don't, and Lurker. We'll have all that and more on the latest episode of Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. Let's go. All right, and welcome to the latest episode of Keeping It Real with Film Gordon. I am Tim Gordon, and I am joined by Charles Kirkland Jr. Charles, what's going on, bro?
It's hard out here in these streets. I'm ducking bullets every day. There's so much crime going on.
So sad. So sad. Welcome to a latest episode of my show. Charles and I have talked about this before the show. We're not going there because that's not this show. And before we get started, for those who are watching us, and you'll notice that this is a backdrop filled with black icons and film stars and EGOT winners and legends. And I put this up because, of course, we've been promoting Summer Madness, our series, uh, talking about legendary black actors all month long. And very proud of it this year, Charles. I mean, I know you talked about it a couple of weeks ago when we were on the air, and I made the joke with you that this was probably the first time that I really ever marketed it and kind of like planned it out. I think we got about 10 days left as we're taping this show today, with Jamie Foxx being our Summer Madness spotlight today. So we've spotlighted many of the people that are behind me, whether it was Whoopi Goldberg, Cicely Tyson, Taraji P. Henson, Eddie Murphy, Morgan Freeman, Denzel Washington, and many, many others. So if you want to check out the whole series, just go over to the filmgordon.com and you'll see on our top row, there's a Summer Madness drop down, a microsite we built out. Summer Madness it'll feature all the people that we're spotlighting, and there are also watch lists of movies that you should check out from each of these legends, man. So with that, Charles, what do
Glad
you?
you ex- I'm glad you explained what your backdrop was because at first I thought it might have been about the Black Reel Awards, which just dropped. And then I saw that they were movie stars more than television stars, and I thought maybe these were all people who called and wrote and wished you a happy birthday as you're coming up on another one. So I'm glad you explained what the backdrop was.
They have not wished me happy birthday yet because we have not gotten there. But also, I'm
By
glad
the
you brought
time this airs, we were already past it.
No, my birthday is next week. So, yeah, it's next week. Oh, yeah. Well, no. Yeah, by the time we do another show, it will have passed.
Yeah,
But yes.
right.
But I'm glad you brought up the Black Reel Awards. We had the ninth annual Black Reel Awards earlier this week. Of course, the big winner was Abbott Elementary. I think it took home 4 bolts. And now, for people at home, because you have to explain all of this stuff, Charles, the Black Reel Television Awards are different from the Black Reel Awards. The Black Reel Awards salute achievement in film. The Black Reel Television Awards honor what, Charles? Television.
Television.
So, much like the Academy Award has the Oscar, our trophy is that of a lightning bolt. So, we call it the Bolt. So, we just had another Bolt, and now we're coming up on the 26th annual Black Reel Award, which will happen on February the 19th, 2026. So I'm getting ready for that now, and submissions are open because people are asking us questions. When are we able to submit our film for Black Reel Award consideration? You absolutely are. So I'm very excited, Charles. Lots of positive stuff happening. And last but not least, you didn't bring this up, but the Light Reel Film Festival, the seventh annual Light Reel Film Festival submissions open in less than a month. So September the 15th, we'll be getting ready for a new slew of films that will play in next June's festival. So we got a lot of stuff happening, Charles. Got a lot of stuff happening. And before we get out of this, I want to congratulate my co-host, who has now just secured a deal and he has another podcast that he is a member of. And Charles, talk a little bit about your podcast.
Well, the podcast is called Real Movie Stuff, and it's produced by the Defiantly Me network. And so I've been picked up with them, and I've been uh, just grinding out some episodes. And it's again, it's another entertainment podcast. We'll be talking about movies and stuff in the industry. And I'm kind of irreverent, so I'm not going to be like Tim is and about uh, all these things. But I'm me. So it's if you like me being silly me, that's what's going to happen on the show. So that's exactly what you get.
I'm glad to hear that the silliness is spreading like a virus to other podcasts now. He's like, yeah, you just like me. All right, man. So anything else we need to plug? We plugged Summer Madness. We plugged your show, Black Reel Awards, Light Reel Film Festival. Is there anything else that's out there that's pluggable?
Well, I do want to correct you on one thing. You said Abbott Elementary was the big winner. Well, they kind of tied because Paradise also had 4 wins, and so we're real happy with that as well for the Black Reel Awards for television.
Now,
But
the other
other than
big,
that,
no, I was gonna say the other big winner because what we normally do is that, our social media presence for the Black Reel Awards is always huge because you get a lot of, I mean, I'm not gonna go into details, but let's just say that what I've learned over almost 26 years of doing this stuff is that um there are a lot of people that work in this industry that go unnoticed, right? I think that's the easiest way to say it. And one of the things that I hope is my legacy, or at least a part of my legacy as it relates to that particular project, is that we see you, right? That's the easiest way to say it, man. Like, and to this day, and that's no disrespect to any other show that's black, that are not awarding people in these categories. We see you at the Black Reel Awards, and I think part of why there's such undying loyalty to us from certain individuals is because we were able to see their performances or see their work or acknowledge their work when other people were not acknowledging that work. And that's one of the things that I'm most proud of with the Black Reel Awards. So yeah, it was a good week. And I wanted to bring that up because Reginald Hudlin had reached out to me because we did a collaboration on posts so that we could share the post with that person and that person shares with their audience. And we just couldn't get Reggie Hudlins to work at all. And it was funny because he texted me and I was like, I sent him some screenshots. I was like, I don't know, Reggie. He was like, it's weird. I was like, I know. So I sent him the post and he, I think, linked back to us. But yeah, man. So if you get an opportunity, we're on Instagram, not exclusively, but Instagram is where a lot of the conversation around the Black Reel Awards and the Black Reel Television Awards are going on. But yeah, man, real proud. I'm glad you brought that up, man. So it gave me an opportunity to say that, man, because that's something that's really near and dear to me, Charles. Got anything else, bro, before we launch into our top 10 today?
let's get it. Let's get it because we don't want to be overtime. Let's do this.
You don't want to do overtime? I thought we had an overtime conversation we needed to have. You don't want to have that
Let's
overtime conversation?
talk about that. Let's get into the show.
All
Let's
right.
get it. I
Okay.
want to talk about this top 10 list.
All right, man. So let's break this down, man. So we're talking about adaptations as cultural landmarks this week. Now, from the pages of powerful novels and groundbreaking plays to the big screen, Black cinema adaptations have been have been a long, vital part of our storytelling tradition, right? Now, these films just don't translate words into images, they preserve history, amplify voices, and reimagine culture for new generations. Now, thinking about something, Charles, like from Lorraine Hansberry, A Raisin in the Sun, to Alice
Mhm.
Walker's The Color Purple, from James Baldwin's And Beale Street Could Talk, to August Wilson's Fences and Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, these works remind us that the written word has always been the foundation for cinematic excellence. And when visionary directors like Spike Lee, Barry Jenkins, and Steve McQueen bring them to the screen, the results just don't become films. They become, as stated earlier, cultural landmarks. All right.
Yeah.
So now, Charles, before we get started, you and I had a conversation because we usually always talk before we present these lists because you notice we have a lot of lists, and a lot of these lists are ideas that either I have come up with or Charles and I will collaborate on these ideas. So today, this was a Tim Gordon exclusive, right? And Charles asked me a couple of questions which are interesting. So Charles, let's play devil's advocate, man, and ask me the questions that we had in our pre-show meeting today. Go ahead. What was the first one?
Hey, Tim, what's the criteria for these awards? How did you, I mean, for this list, how do you determine what is on it and what's not on it?
Good question, but that's not the first question I thought you was going to ask. Because your first question was, where'd you get this list from? Hey,
Secret sauce. They don't need to know the secret sauce.
well, well, it started because I saw a movie last night that we're going to review next week. And we didn't get a chance because we were off last week and we didn't talk about highest to lowest, it being an adaptation of Akira Kurosawa's High and Low, right? So I was like, oh, we should talk about adaptations today. And I started to talk about adaptations across mainstream film. And I was like, no, let's do it for black film. So that's where the idea and the concept came up, right? I did some research because Charles will tell you, and he's watched me do this in studio. I just know movies, man. So I don't need a lot of prompting to come up with stuff. I just have seen a lot of stuff, right? So I did some research and came up with a list. What's wrong?
I just thought of something but we'll get there. We'll get there. I, I yeah,
You
I'm
shocked me
sorry.
with the whole. Okay. So I was saying that
Just thought of a film that's not on the list, and we'll get to it.
okay, cool. All right, so Charles, to answer his question, we came up with a criteria, and the criteria was built on several things. And actually, I sent it to you. Charles, do you want to go through just briefly the criteria? Do you have it up?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, briefly.
Criteria.
Just go through the criteria because if we're gonna do a list of something, people need to understand how are we judging what we're judging. So go ahead.
There are six criteria that to the decision of the list. The first one being foundational source material. So this means that adaptations must come from landmark Black authored, not their novels, plays, memoirs, or cultural texts that carry historical, literary, or cultural weight. For example, the autobiography of Malcolm X or the novel, Alice Walker's novel, The Color Purple. The second criteria was cultural and historical impact. These films must have shifted the conversation about Black life, culture, representation in cinema. They just don't retell stories. They amplify voices, preserved history, and redefine how audience engage with Black narratives. Third criteria is cinematic excellence. Beyond a faithful adaptation, these films had to work as powerful performances, strong direction, and compelling storytelling that stood on their own. Four, awards recognition and breakthroughs. Many of these films broke barriers at Oscars, Emmys, or industry at large. Recognition was not required, but signaled cultural validation. Number five is longevity and legacy. These films had to have staying power. They are still taught, referenced, and celebrated decades later. And the last criteria is broad audience resonance. Each top 10 film reached beyond niche audiences, whether through mainstream theatrical success like Inside Man or awards prestige or cultural conversations. So they really had to resonate with their audience. And
All right.
that's all the criteria.
Got you. All right. So now that we've established that as the benchmark, right? Let's before we even get to our top 10, let's talk about some of these honorable mentions. And Charles, who a couple of minutes ago just went, I guess is this time right now that you can talk about what the is?
Yeah, I think the first honorable mention that I would like to mention is Black Panther. It's not on the list, and we talked about it because what happened is the Black Panther was it's a comic book that was started by Stan Lee and reimagined by uh, um,
Ta-Nehisi Coates, Reggie
Ta-Nehisi
Hudlin.
Coates.
Yeah,
Yeah, Reginald Hutton and all those. So the source material is not black in nature, and so that's one of the reasons why it's an honorable mention. It didn't make it into the top 10.
gotcha.
Um, but, but one movie that I just thought about that is not on the list and has to be listed as an honorable mention is Precious, which was adapted by from Sapphire's book Push, and that did not make the top 10. But and if you think about it, it's culturally significant because Oscar for that performance. And so I mean, it was well recognized, and a lot of people. Uh, Precious is one of those films that I don't think I've ever watched it twice. I've watched it once, but it is so brutal and stark in its direction and story that it's a really tough film to watch over and over again, and that's probably one of the reasons why it didn't make it into the top 10 list. It's a really good movie. It's a lot of significance, but it's a tough movie to watch.
I agree.
Did you want?
I agree.
Yeah, yeah.
Agree. All right.
So
So let's talk about. I'm gonna give you a chance to get some water because we sounding like I'm not getting full Charles Kirkland there. It sounds like it's some
definitely.
sound stuff. And I'm like, man, is that brother, is he all right? He need a glass of water over there or something? All right, so yeah, do that. So, all right, so let's go down some of these honorable mentions. So you've mentioned two, Black Panther and Precious. Glory was another film that was an honorable mention based on letters from Robert Gould. Now, this is also a lot of these that are outside are because, to your point, Charles, that the source material that we're honoring or acknowledging today are those that were written by the Black pen, right? So either they couldn't crack the top 10 because they weren't either significant enough to scale the 10 that are there, or they had authors or the writers who initially weren't African American, even if the subject matter may have been African American, right? So that's an example. The next one is a good example, Native Son, right? Native Son is a Richard Wright book written by a brother, but and it's been adapted twice, both in 86 and then in 2019, 1986 and 2019. Good book, but just outside of that top 10 range. Charles, you also have The Immortal Life of Henrietta Lacks, which was adapted from Rebecca Skloot.
Scoot,
Skloot's
Scoot. But
best-selling book. Starred Oprah Winfrey outside. Gloria. Go ahead.
the thing about the immortal life of Henrietta Lacks, I mean, we're talking about movies, really. So this one and the next one you'll probably mention, which both starred Oprah Winfrey, were actually television, either television movies or television serials, and that will also explain why uh, Roots is not on the top 10 of
Right, and I was ready
adaptations
to say
either.
that because Roots is amazing, man. Like if we did a list of TV adaptations, that's a different story.
Yeah,
So wow. So hold on. So let me just double check. Do we have any TV adaptations on here?
nope, did not.
Woo, that was close. Oh yeah, we do. We got one. We got one, but it's a movie that was on television. Wow. Yeah. Woo. Okay, that's interesting. We're gonna get in trouble. I can see the angry letters. Roots. 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 That's all I'll say. Roots is fantastic. Roots is fantastic. So thank you, Charles. The eyes were watching God from Zora Neale Hurston, Queen, adapted from Alex Haley, The Learning Tree, Gordon Parks semi-autobiographical movie from 1969, Losing Isaiah, which was a Seth Margolis novel, and last but not least, for honorable mentions, for Colored Girls, right? Tyler Perry's adaptation of Ntozake Shange's choreo poem. I've never heard it described in that way, but I wanted to make sure I read that choreo poem. Wow.
whatever that means.
All right, Charles. So before we get into the top 10, Roots. Now, what we can explain about Roots, which might be different as we get to this list, because I just want to double check something. Okay, Roots, I will say, didn't make the list because while we do have a television movie on the list, it is a television movie, not a television limited series. There you go, Charles. That's why Roots didn't make the list.
I said that.
Roots
Okay.
happened over 7 nights, where everything else on this list happened in a single night. Let me double check. I want to make sure. Uh-huh. Yes. So that's why Roots didn't make the list because Roots is too obvious to miss, right? If we're talking about adaptation, it's just too obvious, right? So there would be a reason it missed. So please do not send me angry emails going, "What's up with Roots?" Roots, 7 nights. Everything else, single night. All right, Charles. So you ready,
We'll
man?
have to do a black television adaptations list down this television series that's maybe down the line somewhere.
I mean, absolutely, man. I mean, we got some other stuff in the hopper that we haven't finished that we talked about today. So we always got lists. All right, Charles. So this comes in I would say no particular order, but we have to always order it because we got to do this. So coming in at number 10, Charles, on our list of the top 10 Black cinema adaptations is the autobiography of Miss Jane Pittman. Charles, do you remember watching this as a kid?
Was I can't remember how young I was when I saw this, and I had to watch it again as I got older because the significance of what I was watching just went over my head. It was one of those things. It was kind of like Roots in that it was uh, to watch, but it didn't feel it like. You know what I mean?
Man, I remember watching this, and I might have been, I'm not going to tell you my age, but I watched this when it first dropped, right? And what I didn't understand because I was so young, I didn't get the nuance of it. You got to remember, she is being interviewed by a journalist, and she is 110 years old. So the makeup that they used in this, because it didn't look like it was not realistic. I mean, it was based on a true story. Like it was based not based on a true story, but it was based on a novel of this slave in the 1960s who had been a slave since the 1800s, right? I mean, she wasn't a slave as we were watching it, and like this movie came out in 1974. But her recounting her story of her going from an enslaved person to a person who gained her freedom and all the things that she has saw. Cicely Tyson, to me, Charles, I'm just saying this, and she has been acknowledged as one of our Summer Madness folks this year. Cicely Tyson, as an actress, is just phenomenal. And a lot of people who are younger didn't get an opportunity to see films like Sounder and see her in the autobiography of Jane Pittman. And didn't get, I mean, you saw her in some older stuff that she might have done with Tyler Perry or some stuff that she was on with Viola Davis and How to Get Away with Murder. But you guys didn't see the best of
The
Cicely
help. She was
Tyson.
in the help.
And The Help. Yeah, you didn't see the best of Cicely Tyson. You didn't see
Yes.
young Cicely Tyson, who was really knocking it out the park, man. I mean, she was a dark-skinned sister, so it wasn't about her being fair-skinned. She just had talent. And in this movie, her playing, like 4 or 5 different iterations of her life, man, of telling this story, the autobiography of Jane Pittman, with it ending with that fantastic scene where she drinks out of a whites only fountain, because it was still segregated in her part of the South as she's telling the story. I think she lived in the story from like 1850s to sometime in the 1850s to like the 1960s, which is that's a story.
She was 110 years old when they were making the film. I remember that.
Right. So that finished. I'll start off by saying that was number 10 as one of our favorite adaptations, one of our best top 10 adaptations. Do you want to do number 9, Charles?
Sure, I can do number nine, which is the adaptation of Toni Morrison's classic book, Beloved,
Wow.
uh, which I mean, free and Ben Glover, and a fantastic story. It's kind of interesting that we have this is another slave story, but it's a breaking work. It was even nominated for Oscar, and I remember that back in the day. So this was a classic book that was retold in a story that was moving and touching and had some horror, and it was an experience.
Dan,
It's the best way
Dan,
I want to put
DeWeed, Dan DeWeed Newton and Kimberly Elise,
it.
uh,
Yeah.
along with B. Richards and Oprah Winfrey and Danny Glover, man. It's funny because you think about some of these books, and you will talk about them on the show. There's a couple of, you notice there are a lot of women, or at least it's balanced, with as many women that have novels on here as there are men, right? So when you talk about the source novel from Toni Morrison has so many really good books. Um, and I'm not sure if a lot of them have been adapted, right? Beloved is a classic. That's like an amazing book, and it was one of Oprah Winfrey's favorites. And the fact that they were able to pull the movie together, I still say though, Charles, even with Jonathan Demme at the head of this movie, right? Like as the director of the story, it's a story that I think was really hard to adapt. And I'm not sure if the story went over people's heads, right? Like it's not like it's like woo entertainment, Beloved. Beloved is a hard story, man, to watch. And
Yeah, Jonathan Demme, I think he did an interesting job at telling the whole story. I mean, this is the same guy who did the Silence of the Lamb and Silence of the Lambs in Philadelphia, so he's had this ability to tell these stories that are kind of dark and know that, but somehow I think he did miss some things that as it was going through. So yeah, but again, the source material was so rich and deep that it's hard to capture every aspect of the story, and but I think he did a good job with it.
I just thought of another honorable mention, A Lesson Before Dying, which I love that movie, man.
Uh,
By Ernest Gaines, that didn't make our
yeah,
mentions list. But yeah, there's just so many of these really good adaptations. So up next is August Wilson's Ma Rainey's Black Bottom. Now, I wanted to talk about this because I don't know about you. I have had the sincere honor of having seen all 10 of the plays in August Wilson's Century Cycle. All 10 of Gem of the Ocean, Radio Golf, Jitney. Like, I've seen them all, right? Thank God for living in Washington, D.C. and the Kennedy Center pre you know who. So let's just start there, right? So this adaptation, which of course is notable as the final film from the great Chadwick Boseman, who literally should have won the Oscar, down to the point, Charles, that they shifted the order that year to announce Best Supporting Actor last, and he didn't win. So I apologize for still being salty for that brother over my shoulder right there, who did not win an Oscar even posthumously for what I thought was just a courageous and brave performance in this story anchored by Viola Davis, starring Coleman Domingo and Michael Potts and Glenn Turnman, about this band that backed up Ma Rainey. And so I thought this is one of the few, directed by George C. Wilson, that we've seen three adaptations of August Wilson's films, right? So of course and one or two of them may end up on the list. So of course this one, I'm not going to go into the other ones now because I don't want to preference some of the other ones that may come up. But I really like Ma Rainey's Black Bottom, and to me, despite there's so much talent in there, Chadwick Boseman was just electric. And to find out how sick he was, to have made to have given us that performance, I have no words for it, Charles.
Always say that he was acting as he was acting, which I mean, so which brings a level of, I mean, now that we know what's going on in his life, it just makes the performance that he put on the screen just that much more spectacular, and it's that much more of a shame that he did not receive the recognition that he should have at that time.
All right, man.
And there's no going back. There's nothing that can do about it.
Nope. All right, so Charles, coming in at number seven, man, is a black classic, The Wiz, man. Directed by Sidney Lumet, adapted from the Bomb novel. Now, this one is interesting, right? Now, Charles, we set up a criteria, and it's clear to me that this is one that snuck in. It should not have been on the list. I'm just keeping it real, man. Like I do the research, man, and sometimes we miss. The Wiz should not be on this list, man, because the Wiz source material is not African American in nature. And despite the fact that they made a film that a lot of people revere today, I don't think it aged well. I'm just keeping it real. I watched it recently and I was like, green, the color is green. I was like, come on, Q. So, Charles, go ahead, man.
Saying you were talking about the source material, but even the play that was written based off the source material was written by a white man as well. So the best thing we can talk about is that it was that Q did the music and that it's an all black cast, and it's a celebrated film in our circles. But yeah, it got past both of us to be on this list.
All right, so hold on a second. I'm gonna throw an audible real quick, and replace the Wiz with A Lesson Before Dying. How about that? A Lesson Before Dying is the story of a school teacher, Grant Wiggins, played by Don Cheadle, who is asked by his grandmother, who's Tata Lou, played by Cicely Tyson. We just talked about Cicely Tyson again, who finds out that a young black man has been falsely accused of killing a white shop owner. And she, knowing that there's nothing that they can do, Charles, to reverse to reverse the charges, but for him to go in and die with dignity. And man, I'm telling you, I remember this movie came out in 1999. I don't know how old I was. I cried like a baby watching A Lesson Before Dying, man. I just thought, I might say, have you seen this movie recently?
Something, but yeah, yeah.
Oh my
It's
God, man. That last scene when you got to watch the movie, but what happens is that he's a school teacher. And once the class finds out that final scene when they bring the kids to the jail and they have to say goodbye, wow. It was
yeah,
like, wow. So A Lesson Before Dying, put that one on the list, take Ease on Down the Road off the list, and we are good
Is
buddies.
easy is easy. Yes.
Yeah, so I had to call an audible, man, to make sure we got back on point because I ain't want people coming for me, man. I'm gonna let you do number six, man, because this is a good one.
Oh, okay. Number six, based on James Baldwin's novel, directed by the tour Barry Jenkins. We have 2018's If Beale Street Could Talk. If Beale Street Talk was a very it's a gripping and tragic romantic story about a young gentleman, and it looks like we're trolling the same kind of tropes here because just like in A Lesson for Dying, you know, things aren't going well for this gentleman who gets convicted of a crime that he didn't commit, and so it's a lot of the same things. You have Kiki Lane and Stefan James. Regina King is also in this film. And
She won the
it's a
Oscar for
fact.
this.
Yeah, that's right.
She
She
won the
did.
Oscar for her performance in this film, man. So,
You're right. I forgot all about that. I remember her being in it, but I forgot that she won an Oscar for it. But yeah, it's a fantastic film. Uh, Lyrical in its presentation. It's just a beautiful film to watch, even though it's one of the most tragic stories you can hear about. It's not as tragic as that scene in The Lesson for Dying, but it is a moving tale, and Barry Jenkins put his foot on in that story. Yes.
all right, man. Let's get to number five. And again, we return back to the master, August Wilson, for Fences, man. And this one directed by Denzel Washington. And I'll just say again, I know I just said this a couple of minutes ago when I talked about Chadwick Boseman and another August Wilson adaptation. Denzel Washington should have won the Oscar along with Viola Davis. Viola Davis won the Oscar for Best Supporting Actress in this. Denzel Washington should have won the Oscar for Best Actor, losing to Manchester's by the Sea. What is his name?
Casey Affleck.
Casey Affleck. Um, Denzel Washington should have four Oscars. This should have at least been three, right? This because he didn't win for Malcolm X, he didn't win for this film, and I think this one bothered him because I really thought he should have won for this one as well. But this story, man, based on August Wilson's book, with the role originated by James Earl Jones on Broadway, and the son in it played by Courtney B. Vance. In this version is Denzel Washington, and I don't remember the young actor who played his son in this. But Viola Davis is in this, and she's fantastic, and she won the Oscar. Denzel Washington, he is an actor that we acknowledge with our series. As you can see his face behind me. Denzel Washington is simply one of the greatest actors of his generation. I'm not gonna say he's the best. He's one of the best actors of his generation, and he is a super duper double threat, right? It's not just about he has marquee, amazing looks, but he has the skills to match his looks. Denzel Washington is the man. This guy's been a leading man for 40 plus years. Well, let me take that back. He's been a leading man for 30 plus years because he didn't become a leading man officially until probably Jungle Fever. I mean, not Jungle Fever, More Better Blues. Because after More Better Blues, he never did supporting anymore. Because remember, there was A Soldier Story, Power, Cry Beloved Freedom, Mighty Quinn, Glory, and all those roles. And then after that, Denzel Washington, they was like, put him as number one on the call sheet. And after that, he was number one on the call sheet from like 1991 or 92 to now. I mean, serious. Like, I'm sorry. Mobile Blues is 1990. So Denzel Washington has been a leading man from 1990 to today. So that's like 35 straight years of being number one on the call sheet. Every time you call Denzel Washington up to be in a film, he's number one on the call sheet, man. And there's a reason that that Fences resonate so much. His performance was fantastic in that film, man.
Yeah.
All right, Charles, I'm gonna have to skip you and go to number four. And I'm only going here because this is one of my favorite performances again of all time from the great Sidney Poitier and Lorraine Hansberry's A Raisin in the Sun.
How come you get all the acting icons? You just did Denzel and now you're going to do Sydney.
Sir, my birthday is coming up in a couple of days. Let me have some fun on this podcast.
Is that what you're pulling the birthday card?
Sir,
Okay.
I'm pulling the birthday card. Look, look. A Raisin in the Sun, Ruby D, the late great Diane Sands, Claudia McNeil, masterpiece. We did a rundown about 1999 of the 100 greatest black films of all time, and Raisin in the Sun finished number one. We need to probably go back and do that list again. But this, if Denzel Washington's greatest performance is in Malcolm X, Sidney Poitier's greatest performance to me was in this film where he played Walter Lee Younger. And Charles, that scene when his business partner comes to his house and talks about going up to Springfield to spread some money around, and the guy took their money. And Charles, you've heard me do this on the show. Willie, not with that money, Willie. Woo! Denzel. Sidney Poitier toured de force in this film, and it also co-starred a very young Louis Gossett Jr., who he
Yes.
called him with them effety white shoes on that I can't say the word now, but it was in style in 61. But so that what are your thoughts and impressions about A Raisin in the Sun, man?
I'm not don't have time to talk about the Raisin in the Sun because we still got some other films. So let's keep moving. I think you did it well enough.
All right, sir. Coming in at number three, man, is The Color Purple, another movie that was based on Alice Walker's novel, which has had two adaptations: 1985, which is My Color Purple, the remake in
It's
2023.
the real Color Purple.
Stop it, man. I'm just being nice, but Color Purple, man, launched the careers of EGOT winner Whoopi Goldberg, of course, Oprah Winfrey. Lawrence Fishburne is in this movie, a young Ray Don Chong. Um, God, man, it's just so many. Adolph Caesar, Danny Glover. There's just so much. These are iconic films, man. But go ahead, Charles.
Name Mark Avery. You can keep on going. There's just so
Margaret
many.
Avery. I forgot about her. My apologies, Miss Avery.
Directed by the original, directed by Steven Spielberg, garnered 11 Oscar nominations and came away with Goose Egg, not one.
None.
This was this was like the I mean one of the biggest travesties in Oscars history in my country. Because how do you get 11 nominations and not win one award, not a single one? It was crazy.
Tied with The Turning Point from 1977, the only two films are the two most nominated films. Both of them got 11 nominations, took home nada. And Steven Spielberg would be redeemed less than 10 years later when Schindler's List came out, and they was like, oh, well, never mind. I'm not going down that road. That's another conversation. Coming in at number two. Charles said this earlier about Precious, which was an honorable mention. Here's another one-off, is what I call these films. Solomon Northrup's memoir, directed by Stephen McQueen from 2013, 12 Years a Slave. Charles, I remember you and I have talked about this. I went to the screening to see this movie, and I still describe it the exact same way today as I did 12 years earlier. It felt like sitting on a roller coaster that you couldn't get off of. And I remember sliding down in my seat, man. And my tagline today is the same as 2013. It's the closest one can experience slavery with or being an enslaved person without being an enslaved person. Like it or love it, like it or hate it, Steve McQueen did a powerful adaptation of this film. Powerful to this day. Charles?
Yeah, you said you compared it to a roller coaster, but coasters are fun. This is like a house of horrors. You go into the mirrors, all the rooms with mirrors, and it's just scary the whole time. this movie is just like the most intense and impressive film that you could ever experience. And like you said, it, it's hard to watch this one a second time. I don't think I've ever even touched it the second time. Uh, but yeah, it's yeah, it, it's number two for a reason.
Wow.
But
Well,
yeah, it's real hard.
well, number one, man. God, how many times can we talk about this one movie on our show? But we got to do it again. The number one adaptation of a novel to the screen is Malcolm X. All right. And Charles, you know how I feel about Malcolm X, man. I think it's Denzel Washington. Just heard me say earlier that it's interesting that the two actors that are the most revered in our community, Sir Sidney Poitier and Denzel Washington's best performances are on this list, right? Denzel Washington is the anchor of Malcolm X. The movie is 3 hours and 19 minutes. He's on screen like 3 hours of it, bare minimum. We see him as Red. We see him as young Malcolm in prison. We see him as El Haj Malik Shabazz at the end. Denzel Washington, I think halfway through the movie, I always tell people he stopped being Denzel Washington. He was Malcolm X. Even Spike Lee talks about, man, there were some scenes that we had where I didn't even say cut, and he just kept going. It was almost like Malcolm's spirit channeled through Denzel in the making of this movie. The fact that he did not win the Oscar for this, and Al Pacino, who had been nominated six previous times, won for Scent of a Woman. Still
Wow.
to me, yeah, I was ready to say that. Still to me, along with the Casey Affleck one and some other ones, if you have a list of the biggest omissions in Oscar history, this is absolutely on the list. And it's a fantastic film that gave us Delroy Lindo, gave us Al Freeman Jr., gave us Albert Hall, a young Angela Bassett as Betty Shabazz, a role she would reprise again about 4 years later in Panther. There's just so much in this movie that Spike Lee got right. And it's a fantastic adaptation. Charles, go ahead, man.
I was going to say, you talk about Al Pacino winning the award instead of Denzel. At least Al Pacino had reached the heights of Oscar. And with Casey Affleck, he's never gotten back to that level again. So there is, some people can kind of explain the Al Pacino Award as a lifetime achievement thing, but it really comes across as you guys are really not seeing this movie, and I think a lot of things happened in the Academy because of reaction that from this film that people just weren't watching these black films, and there's no way you can uh, sit through this film and not recognize how powerful and important it was, and not just for Denzel, but for also for Spike. And so, yeah, this is the magnum opus. This is the number one of all time for as a black cinema adaptation, and for good reason.
All right, man, we got about less than 10 minutes to go. And normally, when we had to do reviews, we would freak out because we wouldn't have enough time. But guess what, Charles? We now have the FilmGordon.com where all these reviews are up. We're just kind of we're glazing over this. If you want to read the full reviews of what we're about to talk about, they're all on the site, man. So I'm good with that. So you ready? Let's just have a little discussion about some of these movies. And like I said, the reviews are already there, man. All right, so first up this week, man, is Eden, right? A survival thriller set in the Galapagos Islands, directed by Ron Howard. Now, Charles, I thought despite a strong cast, Jude Law, Anna de Armas, Vanessa Kirby, Sydney Sweeney, this film to me struggled to balance its historical fact-based narrative with character depth, leaving it visually impressive but dramatically uneven. Charles, did you get a chance to see this movie yet?
did get a chance to see this movie. Yes, indeed. And I agree totally with you. There's a lot of good things to look at, but the substance is not there. So I can agree that it's well shot, it's well directed, but there's some narrative issues that are missing for me in this film. And I, I think Tim Gordon is having a moment, I think, because he graded this film higher than I would have. But go ahead and tell
What
him
did
what
you
your
give it,
grade for it
man?
was.
Tell them what you
Huh?
gave it first.
Give it a C minus, and
Wow.
yeah, I gave it a C minus. It's really good to look at, but it substance, and like I said, is not there, and so it's kind of hard to follow at times. So I don't know.
Yeah, well, I gave the film a C plus, man, because I thought that it had some elements that I thought worked, but overall, I just thought that if you think about it as a garment, they just never strung it together that we could walk out the theater and wear it. It just felt like it's just falling all off me, man. So Eden in theaters this weekend, man, you can check it out. Up next, man, is a film that Charles and I both sat a couple of seats away from each other and watched a couple of nights ago called Honey Don't. And of course, this is Ethan Cohen's follow up to his lesbian B movie trilogy with his wife, Trisha Cook, and it aims for a noir meets dark comedy starring Margaret Qualley. Many of you guys will remember from The Substance, Aubrey Plaza, and Chris Evans. The film has moments of wit, but is undone by tonal inconsistency, sloppy pacing, and characters who feel more like sketches than fully realized people. Charles Kirkland, what say you about Honey Don't?
Since, like you said, it's a sequel to and
Drive Away
tone
Dolls.
to Drive Away Dolls, which also starred Margaret Qualley, but in a totally different role. So there's no real connection between the two films. And I really felt like there was no connection in the film itself. So there were a lot of times when I'm watching it and I'm like, what's going on? This was one of those movies where it was an experience to be there, and experience is a negative. It was only an hour and a half long, but it felt like 2 hours, maybe two and a half, because it was just dragged and it just didn't give you anything. And I think to me that the title of the film is an advisory to the people who want to go see it. Honey, don't.
He stole my line, man. I hate you so much, man. So, what did you give the film, man?
It's a D. I gave it a D.
All right, and so did I, man. So, Honey Don't, man, is a serious D. All right, and last but not least, and I'm not even gonna say it. Here's a film that I saw at Sundance. And of course, the film is called Lurker, right? Alex Russell's psychological drama thriller impresses with its tension and style, and it features Theodore Pellerin, Archie Madakwe, and
Madaqui.
Havana. Say it again.
Madaqui.
Thank you. And Havana Rose Liu, and it delivers a gripping exploration of a paranoia and fractured identity. Though slow burning, it lingers long after the credits. Let me just give you a little background. So, pretty much what Lurker is about is if you think about films like All About Eve, right? About how some young person latches themselves on to an established person. In this case, this kid works in a retail store and a pop star walks in and he gets the pop star's attention. And before long, he has infiltrated the pop star's inner circle. And everybody around the pop star, Charles, can see this kid is no good except the man himself who, as the story evolves, some things happen. I don't want to spoil it. It's a brilliant film. It's like one of the films, like if I had to do a top 10 list of movies I saw at Sundance, this one would be on the list. As you can tell from my grade, I gave it a B plus. And if you have an opportunity at some point, I'm just gonna keep it 100 with you right now because this is what I do. I told people last night I've reached the age where I stopped lying to people. I would wait for this on a streaming platform. I would watch this if it comes to a platform. I,
What you
watch
get?
this. I'm not getting any money from the studio for this. So there's no reason for me to tell you I would not go to a theater to watch this. I would wait for this on a streaming platform. Now, watch this. As a president of a film critic association, please go see this movie at the theater. As Tim Gordon, the citizen, Hulu, Amazon, Netflix, Apple is your friend with Lurker. Lurker's a good movie, but you've heard me say on this show every movie is not a movie that should be in theaters, or it shouldn't be a film you got to run to the theater to see. But Lurker is really good. I saw it in the theater. You don't have to do what I did. Just saying.
Pay for it.
Pay for it. Watch this. Have a service, pay for it, just not to pay in the theater. You don't need the popcorn, the candy, just need the movie. So those are the movies that are all in theaters or on platforms this weekend. As I said, if you want to read the full reviews, please go over to the FilmGordon.com. Charles Kirkland and Tim Gordon are over there doing some masterwork with these films. Charles, you realize we're over 120 reviews for the site, and we haven't even gotten out of August yet. And remember, we've got TIFF coming up next month. We got Middleburg coming up. Charles doesn't know it yet, and he's hearing it here for the first time in front of everybody. Tim Gordon did all the heavy lifting at Utah back in January, and he's doing the heavy lifting in Toronto next month. Charles Kirkland is going to be a Superman in October. And he knows exactly what that means. If I wrote all those reviews and those other two festivals, you got it. Because I'm going to Middleburg this year. I'm going to be like this.
Challenge accepted.
Okay. Now, remember, I think there are 40 films at Middleburg. And how many can you see a day, Charles? Is it like, I think they start
I
at
think
like
it's
8 or 9.
four,
You can see
either
about
four or
four.
five. Yeah,
So let's say four movies a day. So that means the Thursday film and Friday, Saturday. Yeah, Charles, you should be able to kick out 15. Can you do 15? Is that I'm just asking. I mean, I don't know. Is 15 good?
oh man, I'm a writer. Writer 15, I can handle that.
All right, challenge accepted. We got a minute to go, man. We can ready to get out of here, man. Anything on the close, Charles, before we wind it up?
Yeah, good. Make sure you check out the Black Reel Awards for television, the Black Reel Television Awards on the site at blackreelawards.com.
All right. And that wraps up today's big show. Make sure you stay connected at Film Gordon, on our social media platforms. Visit the Film Gordon for reviews, features, and festival coverage. And don't forget, you can listen to Keeping It Real on podcast channels everywhere. And as we tell you every week, please see something good at the movies. Until next time, keep it bold, keep it true, but always remember to keep it real. I'm Tim Gordon. That's Charles Kirkland. We out. Peace.